Hey, welcome to Wicked Deke, slightly inebriated 2019-20 NHL Metropolitan Division predictions with more inebriation in this video because it's Friday afternoon and the boss thinks I'm working on something. The Metropolitan Division, probably the most volatile division in the NHL. Looks like all the teams could finish pretty much anywhere. But of course, after years of alcohol consumption, I know what's going to happen. So pay attention. So who's going to finish first? Well, that's obvious. The Washington Cocaines. Capitals. I know, cheap shot. But the Caps, they're another year out from the Stanley Cup, so hopefully most of them are sober by now. And you remember, this team was pretty much the dominant regular season team for a long time. They would click off 100 points a year without breaking a sweat. And they still have a lot of the same players. Yes, they're a little bit older. Ovechkin. Who's Ovechkin? Ovechkin. Vladimir Ovechkin. But Ovechkin certainly has a lot more gray hair, but that shot's still there. And wouldn't you kill to have him on your team? The guy can score goals like a madman. And they got TJ Oshie and, all the regular boys. Now they do have the problem with Evgeny Kuznetsov. But, he got suspended, but it's only 3 games. It's pretty amazing. You can get caught in a photo with cocaine, admit you were doing it eventually, and you only get 3 game suspension. So what happened with Mike Richards again? I'm still confused. But more importantly for the Caps, one of the reasons why you really got to like him in the regular season, at least this year, is the goaltender, Mr. Holtby. It's his contract year, so he's going to be doing the Spider-Man thing in net, trying to secure a future contract. So I like the Caps as 1. 2, the Flyers. Yes, the mighty Philly Flyers. And no, I'm not predicting second place finish just because I'm a Flyers fan. Okay, I am. But there's actually 3 potential developments that could help the Flyers be much better. The first, real coaches. Not only 1 real head coach, 3 of them. Yes, the Flyers brought in Alain Vigneault, and he signed Yao and Therrien to be the offensive and defensive assistants. And so now the divas that are the quote-unquote Flyer stars no longer have any wiggle room. Yes, you're going to have to actually see them play both ends of the ice. What a concept. And Vigneault is, he hasn't won a cup, but he's been to 2 finals with 2 different teams, and his teams are winners. They play winning style, and they also play an attractive style, very offensive. Now, the second reason is in goal. Carter Hart, the chosen one. Carter Hart is up. This will be his first full season. Now Hart still has, at least last year, he had some holes in his game. And eventually NHL teams realized as much. They realized that he wasn't great on the post. And so he ended up having 2 games in a row where I think he gave up 3 goals in the first 10 minutes of the first period in both games. And then the Flyers realized, and they sent him down to the minors so he could learn to deal with that. All indications in training camp are he has learned how to deal with that. So if he can be average or, God forbid, above average, that would go a long way to helping the Flyers because they give up goals like it's raining. Just amazing. So that would be a huge benefit. And then the third reason is, again, going back to the coaching staff, it appears that the Diva Flyer stars, looking at you, Giroux, and Voracek, they're no longer going to get the free ride that they've had in the past. So they're going to have to play both ends of the ice. The old joke in Philly, of course, is that if you want to see Claude Giroux on the ice during a Flyers-Pens game, you just have to look at Crosby going down the middle of the ice about to score a goal, and Giroux will be 5 feet behind him. So if those guys can be taught to actually play a decent, responsible 2-way game, well, the Flyers could improve pretty dramatically. We'll have to see if all that comes together. But again, I'm a Flyers fan, so don't take this from me. Third, the Pens, the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that's got some doubts around it. Starting to get a little bit older. Obviously, they didn't do as well as they were hoping last year. And then they got into the playoffs and got slaughtered by the Islanders of all teams. So they did the logical thing, which was ignore the problems on their team and instead look for a scapegoat. That meant Phil, the hot dog Kessel, was shipped off to Arizona because Phil was obviously the problem with everything. Now, the odd thing about that trade, of course, is they said they were trading a moody, sometimes difficult player to the Coyotes, but they brought back a moody, sometimes difficult player from the Coyotes. Glenchuk, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Just ask any Canadiens fan what they think about him, and you will get a nearful. A kid who looks like he has a lot of promise, but never actually scores, and he's just a pain in the ass. So basically, they got Phil Kessel 2, but a player who isn't nearly as productive as Phil Kessel 1. So I'm not really sure how that fixes things. But in reality, I think we all know what the problem with the Pens is, and it's that defensive core. Arguably, they have 3 NHL quality defenders. They have Letang, who is so overrated, it just drives me nuts. I mean, honestly, if Chris Letang was playing on the Hurricanes, would anybody talk about him? No. Letang's obviously good offensively, pretty weak in his defensive zone, but fortunately they have Brian Dumoulin to play with him, and Dumoulin covers for all of his defensive errors. Dumoulin is actually probably the better overall defenseman. He's one of those guys that isn't going to put up huge numbers, but is going to help you win a cup. And then Jason Schultz, which we can argue about. He's had some good years. Last year he was really bad. But let's just say that he's going to be good for the sake of argument. That gives you 3 solid defenders. And then they got Bumpkus. Now, Jim Rutherford deserves some credit because he somehow found a team to take Oli, the Snail Mata, and the Blackhawks. I have no idea what the Blackhawks are thinking about. Now, Mata not only was a poor player, but he's also been unlucky. I mean, the guy had cancer, so can't really blame him for that. But he is not an NHL level defenseman. Just no way, no how. And I think that if you go onto the boards for the Chicago Blackhawks, you should see fans verifying that probably about 10 minutes into the first game. So I don't know what the Pens are going to do on defense. They don't really have cap space, so it's not like they're trading for anybody. So I guess they're going to hope Matt Murray has a good year. Now, Murray, obviously, he's won a couple cups. He can be very good, but he also has some very bad years. So they're praying that he's going to be good this year. So my theory is it all balances out. They'll finish around 3rd in the division. I don't think they go anywhere in the playoffs unless they somehow trade for some more talent. But that is what it is. We're just talking regular season here. Now, I would also say if you are a Pens fan, 1, I feel bad for you. You're a disgrace. And 2, you better enjoy him now because old Father Time is a knocking on the door. Mr. Crosby's 32. Mr. Wilkins, 33. So they're looking at the last, 3 years or so of their careers. And with Malkin, you have to wonder how much longer it's going to be before maybe he heads back to Russia. Because in the offseason, he still, goes back to Russia and lives there. So the end may be nigh. And if those players leave or if they both left together, you are screwed. Because your farm system is the worst in the NHL, which is understandable. They're trading away their picks to try to bring in guys to help them win. But it's looking pretty ugly for the Pens in a couple of years. 4th, the Rangers. It almost pains me to say this, but the Rangers have actually done a great job rebuilding. As we all recall, a couple of years ago, they sent that letter to the shareholders. We're going to suck. It's time for a rebuild. So they started trading off everybody they could to bring in prospects, to pick up draft picks, and what have you. And they have converted those assets into some really good young players. And they also got lucky in the NHL draft, and they signed Panarin. So they signed Panarin, so that gives them goal scoring. They got lucky in the stupid NHL draft lotto, and they got Kapokako, who looks like he is an NHL winger ready to go now. He played in the World Cup against NHL level players, and he was dominant. He was really good. So they got a steal there. They have Kravtsov, the Russian kid, who was their first round draft pick a couple years before. He's coming up. I don't know if he makes a team or not, but he's a sniper, and so you got to like him coming in. So their forward lines are starting to look good. They still have the young centers who are developing. You know how it is with centers. They make leaps, and then they're static for a while. So they kind of see how they're going to do there. Are they going to win a cup? No, but they're definitely headed in the right direction. You can see them being very competitive this year and then really becoming competitive in the next couple of years. And on defense, of course, they brought in Trouba and they traded for Adam Fox out of the Hurricanes. Fox looks like he's going to be a stud. So their defense is starting to become younger and more well-rounded, more offensive. They still have the Naked King in goal. I call him the Naked King because despite calling himself the king, he's never won a cup, so he's naked. But anyways, you can see the Rangers making a big push. Number 5, the Hurricanes. But what about the playoffs last year? This team was awesome. Yeah, they had a nice run. But boy, that looked like a team that had a run. They don't look like a consistent big point scorer. They look like the type of team that's always going to be right on the edge of the playoffs. They're missing Justin Williams. He's not retired. He's I don't know, in limbo. I don't know what you call it. He's taking a break. That's a lot of leadership out the door. And then, you look at the rest of their players, and they have some good players, not great players. One that arguably you could say is, a major difference maker in Aho. But a lot of players who could go either way. And then in net, I still have serious doubts about that. I actually thought Jonathan Quick might have been traded to the Hurricanes this offseason because they have Reimer and they have Mrazek in net. And both of those guys are pretty much the definition of journeyman goaltenders. Now, of course, in the playoffs, it can get hot, as we saw with Mrazek. But over an 82-game season, the quality of your goaltender tends to kind of average out, and they drop to the level of wherever they really are. And I don't really like either of these guys. So, unfortunately, the owner's so cheap that I doubt they would trade for a better goaltender. Number 6, Columbus, the Rejects, also known as the Blue Jackets or the BJs. So, was that a big vote on John Tortorella, or all those free agents left? Not a one came back. Run! So they need a new goalie. I actually think they're going to be fine in goal. I am not a huge Bob fan. I think if they get average goaltending, which looks like they will, they'll be fine. That defensive group, they look like a young Nashville Predators team. They got 4 solid young defenders led by Seth Jones, who, in my opinion, is probably going to be the best defensive player in the NHL within a year or two, maybe even this year. So they look very strong there. The question's just on offense. How are they going to score? They've got Luc Dubois. He's 21, though. He's your number 1 center. So, is he going to be able to pile up the points? He'll have a productive year, but I'm not sure that, who else is really going to be there scoring with him. They lost a lot of offense. And so you can see them drop. Now, if they can find some forwards somewhere, some people to score, they quickly move back up this list. 7, Islanders. I know. They finished, first last year? Certainly high enough to make the playoffs. And the great Barry Trotz doing his magic act again. It's just, man, you look at this roster, and some year he's not going to have enough magic. I think it's this year. Now they have some good young players. Barzal, he's worth the price of admission. But you look at some of the other guys, and you wonder. They still have Andrew. I can't believe we signed him, Ladd. They went out and added Derek Brassard, a guy who's flamed out in the last 3 places he's played. And some of their stalwart players, that don't get a lot of publicity, but are key to the strength of their team, are getting older. Boychuk, he's 35 this year. Now, Boychuk's never gotten a lot of PR, but he's been a very good defenseman. Even when he was with the Bruins and with the Islanders, he's your number 1 pairing defenseman, and now he's 35, and he started to show it last year. So I imagine this year, it could be a problem. And then in goal, they made that really strange decision where they let Lehner go. Now, Lehner had a good year primarily, because of the system. The system really protects the goalie, but Varlamov, really? I don't understand that. A guy who lost his position with the Avs, that's your answer? That's who you're bringing in? Seems kind of weird. I don't know. Now, another area where the Islanders could actually improve greatly is they have quite a few prospects that may eventually make the team. And if those prospects are worth a damn, then certainly they would have a chance to come in and do make a big difference. But the weird thing about the prospects is they're kind of getting to that age where you wonder if some of the shine is off of them. Kiefer Bellows, is a guy a lot of people like. I liked him. Well, now he's 21 and he's still not up on the team. So that's kind of strange. Joshua Hosang, he's 23. Not only is he not with the team, but he's fighting with them. Keeps wanting to be traded. For some reason, they keep not trading him. And so you have things like that. No Dobson's still young. They have no Dobson and Bodie Wild. They're both 19, so they're still, attractive prospects, but neither of them was actually very good last year. So that's a problem. Then they have Oliver Wahlstrom, who was a number 1 pick. A lot of people thought highly of. I did. But then he went to college last year in Boston and was awful. But he did rebound at the end of the year when he went to I think he was in the AHL. So if some of those guys come up and play better, then obviously their prospects improve greatly. And then last, we have the Jack Hugheses, the New Jersey Devils. And yes, they like to make a splash in the offseason. Got incredibly lucky with the draft lotto to move up and pick Hughes. The thing with Hughes is I think he's going to be very good, but I don't think he's a generational player. He's not a McDavid or Sidney Crosby. Again, going to be very good, very good. Not saying he's not, but he's just not a guy that I look at and think, wow. I mean, he's very good. And the guys he played with on the USA team were also very good. So you always had that question. How much of it was him? How much was it the other players? And all I can say is that, in the World Juniors, when he was out because he got, hit in the corner and busted up his shoulder, the team didn't take a step back at all. The guys he was playing with were still pumping goals. And so I'm not sure he's, all that, if you will. Again, he'll be very good, but I just don't think he comes in and changes the world for the Devils. And then you have, some of the stranger things that they did, like trading for PK Subban. I don't hate PK Subban like everybody else seems to, but I mean, is he really going to add a ton to the team? They just have some very weird kind of layouts. So you have Subban comes in, and I guess he'll be on the first pairing, but it really isn't their best defender, Andy Green, and he's 36, so he's pretty much at the end of the run. So you look at the defenders; it's pretty much PK Subban, Sami Vatanen, and I don't know, Will Butcher. And then you have in goal Corey Schneider, who's been awful the last couple of years. Does he rebound? Maybe. My favorite thing about the New Jersey Devils, though, and I love to cite this every year, is that they're still paying Ilya Kovalchuk. Now it's not a lot of money, $250,000, but as part of his buyout, they're paying it to him every year, and they're still got 6 more years to go on those payments. So Ilya's wife hopefully is getting some new exercise equipment. And then the strange thing about the Devils is, they seem to think they're going on a run now, and so they've been trading away picks. So in 2020, they had their first round pick, but not their second or third round pick. And in 2021, they've already traded away their second round pick. So I guess this is them going for it. But you look at that roster and wow, I just don't see it. But again, it's the Metropolitan. This is a division where pretty much any of these teams can finish anywhere. So we'll just have to see. But so there you go. If you look at the teams that might come out and win the cup, it's kind of hard to see any of these teams really do that, except for maybe the Caps, and of course the Flyers. But anyways, it's Friday. Have a good weekend. Deke out.